invigilation that the GRA do and all that, bringing confusion in the market, all is due to the uniformity or uniformity of that VAT system, and the fact that it's not also affordable, and that the fact that it's complex. So we wanted the whole tax system to be restructured, and they didn't listen to that. It means that the confusion is still going to go on between GRA and then the business community, which is very worrying. And so it's very unfortunate, but we are expecting some segment of the business community have some reliefs, like those that you enumerated, which is also very positive, but it is not broad-based. You see, when we talk about generality of business, then the cost of clearing up the port and all that, none of these areas were looked into, and the status quo still remains. The natural sequence is for us to pass on the cost to the consuming public, but are they also being able to contain that? It's not possible because of their purchasing power having been reduced that low, and so businesses are going to fall. I can foresee that, and so and then we also seek the stability to be entrenched. That's why we're expecting that they talk something positively, maybe about the second tranche of the IMF loan, so that it can shore up the foreign exchange, because we are making the Christmas purchases, and then if care is not taken and we do not manage the depreciation, perennially, the end of December, beginning of January, and mid of February, there's depreciation, and that's where my fears is.
Okay, so, but and we're even still awaiting the arrival of the $600 million, the second tranche of the IMF. That's the disbursement to come in after we have agreed in this engagement with external creditors, which is expected to have some knock-on effect, and then also even the Cocoa Board's own loan that is yet to come in as well. All of that also has its own impact on the situation that you're talking about. But then again, you talk about the pass-on effect. The consuming public, look, the purchasing power is not there, okay? And clearly, what that leaves you with is that you would have to still bear the brunt of these increases and the impact it's having on your business. Because if you pass on to us, we can't buy.
That's an unfortunate thing. Because the business, I've always said that the business we are doing, we don't do it in isolation. We do it with our consuming public. So if they do not have the ability to buy, then we are also not able to turn over, because businesses thrive on turnover. And so that's the situation we find ourselves in. The problems that we face at the port. So we thought that at least we should have been having some reliefs also there, so that at least the cost of clearance become a bit affordable.
Right.
Now we did not get that. The VAT that is causing problem in the marketplaces, they did not also not look at it. That's my worrying aspect of it, because it means that the confusion that we hear, you hear the Kuzuka people say, we'll close our shops, we will fight with GRA and all that. So why didn't they listen to us to restructure the VAT system to be uniform? The system as it is not efficient enough to ensure compliance. And that's the difficulty we are having at the marketplaces, aside of the fact that we have so many taxes to contend with. It's very worrying. Thank you so much.
To the port a few times, and let me just bring in Samson Asaki Awingobit, Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. You also, Mr. Awingobit, had expectations of some policy measures to be announced in this 2024 budget to reduce the cost of doing business at the ports, especially, and you say that the volumes of business there had reduced over time, and there's a lot happening going through the Togo border and then also the Ivory Coast as well. Were these expectations that you had of this budget to reduce business, cost of doing business at the ports met?
Thank you very much. I strongly believe that many Ghanaians today probably wasn't happy with today's budget presentation because the finance minister before going to parliament, have heard how loud and clear business community have cried from the AGI, from the Gute point of view, from the food and beverages, from the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. We have all said that there was a need for government to abolish the COVID-19 levy. And so we're looking forward seriously to see that COVID levy being struck out in our books. Yet it was silent on it. We're looking forward to see the government do something about the VAT rate currently at the port. The VAT 15% is plus the Get Fund and health insurance, making it over 20-something percentage. It's a serious cost and add up to the cost of doing business in the port. We were also expecting to see the government, at least the upfront VAT that we raised in the port, that is affecting the port, is affecting the business community. We're expecting to see what government was doing about it. Yet today, if you look in the budget, they are even going to expand the upfront VAT to, as a matter of fact, add on some commodities in the port. And of course, you do know that interest rate, inflation is hovering around 35%, run rates and others are all adding up to the cost of doing business in this country. We continue to complain that the port is empty because as a result of the taxes and fees and charges. And so many importers today are all sending their cargo. Ghanaian importers, can you imagine, prefer to send their cargo to Ivory Coast, clear there and find ways and means and bring it to our market. Can you imagine Ghanaian importer would prefer to send the cargo to Togo port and find ways and means and bring it? So those who send their cargo to Ivory Coast and Togo will not be there to pay the needed taxes that the government wants. At the end of the day, if care is not taken, I'm not quite sure GRA will even meet its annual year revenue target that it's supposed to do. And so that is why we saw GRA people staff go out, went to sit at people's shops to say they are doing, if they want come to buy, then they take like they are doing daily mark and to account to know how much actually a store has made its sales for the day and for the week and for the month. And so that's not how it's supposed to be. Tax should be flexible for us to be compliant, so that when the compliance level is higher, then you can make the needed revenue. And also give the business community some relief, so that when they expand their businesses, when they grow, you can come back to ask for tax. But unfortunately, I cannot say, I'm not here to, I won't say that per today's budget measure, even though someone will say that, but those who are going to import agriculture machinery will no longer affect taxes. Those who are going to bring raw material for pharmaceutical product will no longer affect taxes. Those who are going to bring raw material to produce sanitary locally, sanitary pad locally, VAT and others, tax import duty will not affect them. However, the cost of doing businesses in the country is red. But so I can tell you, majority of the business people were not captured in this budget because the ordinary Ghanaians, things that they buy in daily basis, were not captured or were not given any tax recipe for them to boost our not purchase, so that truly the government have really listened to our cry and government have introduced policy to respond to the issues that
you had raised prior to this presentation. Thank you. Samson Asaki Awingobe, Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. Now, still staying with the details of this budget, there was another aspect that the Finance Minister indicated that Ghana has met its performance criteria in the first review of the IMF. In fact, explaining that the IMF program is assessed semi-annually, which we've seen done through the staff review mission, followed by a final approval by the IMF Executive Board. Now, here's exactly what the Finance Minister said in this regard. Take a look at this. And then we'll be joined shortly by Yaolati with Deloitte. But this is the specific statement by the Finance Minister on this matter, that he informed Parliament that based on the IMF's own assessment at the staff level after the first review, Ghana met all 6 of the quantitative performance criteria, QPCs, that a floor on net international reserves, ceiling on primary balance on commitment basis, and ceiling on contracting non-concessional loans or guarantees. And then the zero collateralization of borrowing and no accumulation of external debt service arrears. That's according to the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Pia Lartey is financial advisory partner with international auditing firm Deloitte. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight. Now, you had engaged the business community ahead of this budget presentation, and they were very heavy on the impact that taxes are having on the cost of doing business in this country. Did this budget address those concerns?
Thank you very much. I think prior to the reading of the budget, we had engaged the business community, and they outlined some expectations that they were expecting or they were hoping to be incorporated in the budget. And so some of the expectations were around issues like taxes. So the business community were expecting one review of some of the existing taxes. For instance, they were asking for a reduction in some of the indirect taxes like VAT. If it's possible, government should consider reducing the taxes, and it is going to exert some compliance as opposed to keeping it at the rate at this now. Some business community were also expecting some taxes to be removed entirely. And they, in their view, thought that these taxes are distortion to the business environment that have become a little bit difficult given our current economic condition. So some of the taxes that businesses propose to be removed are e-levy, for instance, COVID levy, and some taxes that have had sunset provisions for a while, and those that were recently introduced, like growth and sustainability levy that were introduced recently. So the business community were expecting that either these taxes are removed entirely or they are removed in one way or the other. Also, in addition to the concerns around taxes, businesses were expecting some form of policy that will support access to credits. As you know, when the policy rate, as in the central bank policy rate increases, you would also see the corresponding effect on cost of credit. So if the policy rate currently is around 30%, it's very difficult for you to get a loan below 30%. So you are either going to get 30% or above that. So businesses were also advocating for some consideration around ensuring that not only are credits available, but also they are coming to business at a cheaper rate. And then the last is the two related problems of depreciation of the local currency and inflation. As you know, one is dependent on the other. So as the local currency depreciates, imported inflation increases. So if government is able to address the depreciation of the local currency, you indirectly address part of the inflationary problem, which today we are seeing some declining trend. But if a lot more is done about the depreciation of the local currency, the aspect of inflation that has got to do with the imported side will be addressed. So these were some of the expectations of business getting to this budget reading, and obviously not all of it were within significant part of it were not even touched.
But then again, these expectations were not met quite clearly, at least based on the responses you've heard from the business community today. Yeah, isn't it?
Not at all. And sadly, you notice that even for most parts of the budget statement, it did not touch on most of the major concerns that were raised by business. And some of these stakeholder engagement, I was there personally. We had CEO events, we had the mutual growth events also, and then there were a few other stakeholder consultations that were done by us, even at Deloitte. The ministers were present. And so we were hoping that in one way or the other, they will be reflected in the budget, but they were not reflected at all.
COVID-19, so why is it that really, let's look at this, the COVID-19 and the e-levy that you have indicated the business community wanted to be removed, wasn't done? There was really no mention of exactly why but what's the thinking around it? And why was that clarion call by the business community not considered in this budget?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that these tax exemption waivers, I classified about 2 points. So I have mentioned the domestication or support of local economy. Mm-hmm. The second one is support for green economy. So anytime we celebrate what we call the Green Ghana Day, we make all manner of statements about how we plan to move Ghana to a green economy. The green economy is not just about planting trees. You should also be involved in creating a green industry. And one of the ways that you create a green economy is supporting the manufacturing, importation, and usage of electric vehicles. Because that's the future. That's where we are all going. Very soon, the companies that are producing the cars that are using fossil fuel and that are using the diesel and petrol that you buy every day, at some point, they will stop manufacturing. And the concentration will be on electric vehicles because we are all concerned about protecting the environment, conserving energy, and so on and so forth. So if we have an initiative that is starting, we'll progressively work towards creating a green economy. This is a very good initiative. It is not the end of it, but at least it's an initiative that kind of creates a sense of awareness. People are not even aware of electric vehicles. They don't know that there are vehicles that are running or that are operated with electric.
And that's the concerning here, and that because if you look at the percentage of usage, and you are right, that people don't even know. And that is where the people who had this raising that fundamental question of the real impact of this. If it's meant to encourage people, how much of an impact will this have? And then also, do we even have the infrastructure and so on in place to support this mass usage of electric vehicles, even for public transport? So there's a lot that has to be detailed as to how this relief would eventually achieve the objective for which it was even announced by the finance minister in the first place today. But I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. You're Pia Latte, financial advisory partner with international auditing firm Deloitte. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Earlier today, I sat with the former Deputy Finance Minister, is a current minority leader, Dr. Kesel Ato-Forson, on this 2024 Nkonim budget. And this is what he had to say. Take a look. This budget, the Finance Minister says, is an Nkonim budget with all the details as it's spelled out in there. Does it inspire hope for you, the minority, from what you say?
Nkonim means victory. And obviously he will celebrate because they have successfully looted the economy. And looted the economy and looted the people of Ghana successfully without the people of Ghana making noise or realizing that this is what they have done. This is a government that within 7 years, they have made the ordinary Ghanaian poorer. They have succeeded in destroying the public sector, eroded all the governance gains we have made since 1992, to the extent that they have destroyed the economy completely. Every single SOE is on its nails. Why wouldn't he say that they have successfully messed the people of Ghana up? They came to destroy us. So it's victory for them. I'm not surprised. Nkonim means victory in destruction.
Well, this is the finance minister talking about Ghana set to cross the 1 trillion cedis GDP mark for the first time.
Okay, so whatever nominal GDP they inherited, all what you need to do is to use the inflation deflator to discount it, and you will see what exactly they have done. My brother, when this government took office, find out the GDP per capita. What this simple means is that you divide the nominal GDP with the population rate, the actual population, and then express it in the US dollar. Then you will know what we call the GDP per capita. When they took office, and today, you notice that the average Ghanaian is worse off. In fact, when they took office, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, clearly, Ghana's economy, both per capita GDP and nominal, was miles ahead of Cote d'Ivoire. Today, Ghana is at risk that by the end of this year, Cote d'Ivoire will overtake Ghana as the second largest economy in West Africa. That is coming. In fact, when they took office, the ordinary Ghanaian was far better off than the ordinary Ivorian. Go and check the numbers again. In the coming days, I'll publish the numbers. The ordinary Ivorian has not only caught up to the ordinary Ghanaian, but is threatening to overtake the ordinary Ghanaian. This is the legacy of this administration.
There's reference always made about what was happening in 2017, 2018, and 2019 prior to COVID, and that the numbers that you keep talking about were a reflection of a growing, improved, strong economy until 2020 when COVID hit, and that is what is resulting in now.
I made reference of Ivory Coast. COVID never affected Ivory Coast, isn't it? Our neighbor, COVID never affected them. Is that what they are trying to say? COVID never affected Togo. Do you know that in Africa today, there's something we call misery index, ahochere. There is a lot more ahochere in Ghana than even Niger. There's a lot more ahochere in Ghana more than Somalia.
Based on the misery index?
Based on the misery index. And so that statement that they always make, that for some interesting reason, COVID never affected any other country in West Africa or in Africa, and it only affected Ghana, is shameful. It is really shameful. Look, we are where we are because of what the Catholic Bishop Conference aptly described: massive and uncontrolled corruption, looting at a large scale, wholesale looting, not at the retail level, wholesale looting.
If you talk about massive corruption, exactly what do you mean? Where exactly is this corruption?
The kind of corruption Ghana is seeing today has never been witnessed in our lifetime. Has never been witnessed in a lifetime. I said it's wholesale. And you know what wholesale is? You don't take it in small quantities, large quantities. In fact, wholesale may be an understatement. It's at the manufacturing levels. That is where they've taken corruption to. The governance has been eroded completely. It is not only failing, but they've destroyed it. Today, all the SOEs are on their knees. You know that. Cocoa economy has been collapsed. Now we don't have cocoa economy. Not long ago, the difference between the production, the amount of cocoa we produce in a year, first and second, and the third was miles. If care is not taken by the end of this year, this cocoa season, Ecuador will end up becoming the second largest cocoa producer in the world, and Ghana will go to third. We are getting close.
Now, one of the major concerns of the business community was the impact of taxes on the cost of doing business, which has really increased over time. Does the details of this budget and the reliefs that were announced specifically address those concerns that the business community had going into the fiscal year 2024?
It's going to make it worse, unfortunately.
This budget?
Yes, it's going to make it worse. Have you paid attention to the details in the budget? The minister thought he's so smart that he doesn't want public attention to be on the taxes he has introduced from day one. But we have the eyes to decode it. He has introduced new taxes worth 11 billion Ghana cedis. Simple put, he's taken 11 billion from your pocket, from his pocket, and the pocket of your producers and businesses, including your company. That is what they have done. That is what they have done. Introduction of new taxes worth 11 billion. One, in the statement, look at page 18 of his statement. He wrote English language and then added those taxes that they want to introduce. One, he's going to introduce vehicle emission tax. It's a luxury vehicle tax with a new name. With a new name. To create impression that they are using it, they are collecting it from vehicles that are producing higher emission. Aside that, they are also introducing other tax handles, like the tax stamp. Tax stamp. If you buy a land and you want to register, you have to go and pay tax stamp, stamp duty. They are increasing it. He failed to give us the rate. The devil is in the detail. But he can't run. The things will come to Parliament. Or the number of taxes he has introduced worth 11 billion Ghana cedis. But let me tell you something. the NDC minority will certainly not support
these tax
measures that intend to destroy livelihoods and businesses. We say this because this government doesn't need new taxes. You know why?
Tell me.
Already, they have presented to Parliament 47 different memorandums covering tax exemptions worth 5.5 billion, equivalent of $449 million. So it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. These tax exemptions they are asking Parliament to approve are for companies. They claim they are going to use these tax exemptions to clear some of the goods at the port for the purposes of constructing new factories. When we went in and investigated it, you know what we saw? About 80% of these so-called companies who have imported items and they are going to use it for this, factories. The factories, they've already cleared the things and the factories have already been completed and they are in production.
The exemptions they were giving to, or they brought to Parliament
the exemptions before Parliament now.
For the companies to clear items at the ports.
Yes.
That has been done already.
47 companies.
They've already cleared the goods at the ports.
So why are they requiring those tax exemptions? They know what they are using it for.
Did the minority raise questions about this?
Yes. You see, the reason why we have kept these tax exemptions in abeyance is that we fought over it at the Finance Committee. So they are so scared to bring it to the floor. Our position is simple. We will not sit and have a conversation on these taxes until they come and withdraw all these tax exemptions from Parliament.
All those tax exemptions for these 47 companies.
Let me put it in another perspective. Can you imagine that as we speak, Ghana as a country is waiting on the IMF to go to their board and to grant us a loan of $600 million. But right before Parliament, they are asking Parliament to approve a loan, to approve tax exemption worth $449 million. Can you imagine? Do we really need that kind? The money is here. The money is here. You see, this is a government that has lost the way. They are clueless, empty. They don't have the requisite skills to deal with the economic challenges that we are facing. And our vice president, he has shown that he can't do anything. Today, for the first time, you didn't see him in the budget statement reading. You didn't see him. But he can't run away from it.
You were asking
where
he was.
You cannot run away from it. Because the finance minister did not destroy our economy alone. He did it with the vice president and the governor of the central bank. The three of them are the faces of destruction. They have destroyed our livelihood. They have messed us up and destroyed the people of Ghana completely. Please, if you get him, put it to him that he has run away from Parliament, obviously because he wants to distance himself from the finance minister. But you see, the chairman of the economic management team supervises the finance minister directly. The budget and all policies of the finance minister are approved by the the vice president, chairing economic management team. He has been a disaster.
Even with government meeting all the 6 quantitative performance criteria that the IMF set for at least for the first tranche, you still think that there hasn't been any significant improvement?
There hasn't been improvement
in the macroeconomic indicators. No. In fact, the IMF itself stated that.
So we have moved from worst to bad, and both are not good.
That was not the IMF's own verdict.
No, that's what IMF said. It's improving. It's worse from worst to bad. That's all what we have done. We've moved from worst to bad. And if care is not taken, and the path they are on will go back to worse. That's what it is.
These measures will not improve on the state of affairs of this economy?
Will this government stop corruption?
They haven't shown the commitment to do so?
Where in the budget Have you seen that they are stopping corruption?
How much of an impact will this have? And I'm talking about specifically the extension of the zero rate of VAT on the locally manufactured African prints, and then also the zero rated VAT on locally assembled vehicles for 2 more years, and then a number of others that talks about the way.
It is not new. It exists already. It's already policies that exist. And so telling us that he's extending it, he's only continuing with the policy. It's not new relief. The only thing that I can say is new has to do with the removal of taxes on locally manufactured sanitary pads. Yes. But that one, you can't give credit to this government.
Why don't you want to give credit to them?
You can't give it to them because the Honorable Sosu, the MP for Medina, is the one who has championed this from the beginning with the Speaker of Parliament. And the Speaker of Parliament publicly, go back to parliamentary records and Hansard, had said that as for him, as long as he remains the Speaker this year, we'll remove that tax. The government, sensing embarrassment after Honorable Sosu has drafted a private member's bill and knowing very well that it will go through, decided to announce it in their budget. But let me tell you, we will end up passing Sosu's one ahead of the government preparing their own what do you call it, tax to remove this menstrual.
But beyond the advocacy, there was a decision that had to be taken. Government has heeded to that call
7 years.
And remove that tax.
I'm telling you, they are sensing embarrassment.
Is that not worth commending them for?
How could you commend? I can only say that, yes, you've done well for saving your face because you'll be embarrassed so bad. And so maybe it is, in fact, we've messed up so badly that if we don't do this for the people of Ghana, Ghanaians will not take us serious. So let us do this. But the question is how much? After imposing 11 billion Ghana cedis of new taxes, how much tax reliefs are they giving to the ordinary Ghanaian? New tax reliefs. Let them quantify it. I've quantified the new taxes, and I've said that it's 11 billion. Let them quantify the reliefs that they are giving to Ghanaians.
Well, you made reference to the second tranche of the 600 million coming in. Yeah. The 30 to 40% haircut that the finance minister is offering, we understand, is meeting some resistance.
I don't expect the Eurobond holders in particular to accept the terms in its form and shape as presented by the finance minister.
You don't expect them to accept it?
Oh, no. But the form and shape is certainly not acceptable. Why do you give somebody a haircut? If somebody has invested, let's say, $100 million in your economy, that person is going to get a haircut of $40 million. And only $60 million will be paid back to the person. Not even today, but the next 20 years. Who will accept that? Nobody will accept that. But let me tell you, this foreign debt restructuring, Eurobond debt restructuring, has a negative impact again on our financial sector. People are not paying attention to that. EcoBank has huge amount of money invested in government Eurobonds. Not only them, a number of local banks. All of them are going to get 60%, 40% of those amount that they have invested in government bonds shave off. What a crude haircut that will be. And that money does not belong to EcoBank. It belongs to you. It belongs to the ordinary Ghanaian. It belongs to Ghanaian businesses. So do you want to collapse those companies? So certainly they won't accept it. I'm not surprised the banks are not responding. Because they will not respond. Because clearly it doesn't make sense. You are not giving them nominal haircut or notional haircut. You are extending the tenure for 20 more years. Without giving assurance that even the 20 years, you won't go back and do another haircut. I've heard rumors today in Parliament everywhere. They said the finance minister is going. And that's why I say bye-bye, not only to his government, but to himself. And I've heard that in the coming days, he will be resigning. I don't know how true it is, but it's rumor all over. I mean, you can find out if you walk around the finance. I heard it myself.
There are rumors that
the Minister of Finance is going to resign after presenting this budget. Well, so
who is saying this?
So their own people, the MPP, and
the MPs
and everywhere. They are saying it to all of us. The finance. I'm sure you may have heard it. So haven't you heard it?
I haven't heard it.
Okay, then go and find out. Go and find out because I'm hearing that he's going to leave. If he's going to go, let me be blunt with you, he will still be remembered as the one who crashed the Ghanaian economy. Yes, he did not do it alone. If I may recap some of his record, his legacy, I'm sure he's going to go, so it's better we read his tribute. But
you are sure the finance minister is going to go?
I'm not the one saying it. It's the MPs.
You just said that.
Haven't you heard it?
Go. I haven't heard that.
I'm surprised, and you've been in Parliament the whole day.
I haven't heard it.
Please,
so I
open your
wonder
ears.
who is saying this to you.
Okay, the MPs are saying it. But let me tell you, he will be remembered as the one who borrowed to benefit his businesses and his cronies. He is the same Minister of Finance who has brought our financial sector to its knees. He gave crude and painful haircut to even pensioners and destroyed homes and livelihoods. He's the same Minister of Finance who, within 1 year, has plunged about 25% of the Ghanaian population, representing about 8.5 million Ghanaians, into extreme poverty. And another person who helped him, the governor, the one who described us as hooligans.
In the coming days, this budget is going to be subjected to a lot of debate and also discussion. And there's a lot of detail in the footnote which we haven't seen. And for the Ghanaian people, the most important concern in here is how this is going to improve, especially on the conditions of living and reduce the cost of living for the Ghanaian people. Looking at the details of this budget, will that be fulfilled?
Touch wood. The NDC minority will do whatever it takes to protect the ordinary Ghanaian. Most importantly, Ghanaian businesses.
Dr. Kessel Atto-Forsyth there, and this is just the first of many conversations we're going to be having on various aspects of this budget. Remember that after this, Parliament itself will subject this budget to a debate over a period. There's a post-budget conference that's taking place in the next 3 days ahead of us as well. But stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. I sat earlier with the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapor, on the happenings in the issues relating to forest reserves, attempts to mine in the Kakum National Park, for instance, and Matesa Rising. Stay with us. We'll play back that interview. We have Civil Sachi joining us right now.
So what was the intent in passing LI 12462 when you have committed to preserving forest reserves in this country?
The LI you referred to was sponsored by the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. And the jury is out there to determine the appropriateness or otherwise of this particular LI. And I will not make too much comment on that. But it is not correct that there is an LI which permits indiscriminate mining in forest reserves. That is not correct.
Previously, there was an LI that permitted just about 2% of forest reserves to be mined. But now that has been set aside, and this LI is in place.
I'm saying it's not correct because an LI is subsidiary legislation, and therefore is subservient to an Act of Parliament. And the Act of Parliament which regulates mining, i.e. Act 703, which is the Minerals and Mining Act 206, Act 703, and the enabling law for the Forestry Commission, the enabling law for the Environmental Protection Agency, will not and cannot allow indiscriminate mining in forest reserves, and will take precedence over an LI. But having said that, I mean, it's also important for us to face some of the realities of our legal regime when it comes to mining. It is not, mining in forest reserve is not prescribed by law. I mean, I'm not saying it, that's what the law says. Mining is permitted in forest reserve, but under strict conditions and strict environmental protocols. I'll give you an example. Newmont Ghana, which is the biggest mining company in the world, and is the biggest mining company in Ghana, mines in a forest reserve. And Newmont got their concession about 20, 30 years ago. What it is that small-scale mining is not permitted in forest reserves. That has been our biggest problem. Permitting small-scale mining in forest reserves. Small-scale mining is not permitted in forest reserves. Secondly, even when large-scale mining operations are permitted in forest, they are supposed to be done within a certain strict environmental protocol. And many a times, we have difficulty and challenges with that. Now, the Forest Commission has been very strict on mining activities. whether large-scale or small-scale mining activities in forest. And as I just give you an example, just about a week ago, I'm dealing with a situation where forest guards had to go and flush out illegal miners in a particular forest reserve.
Now, that was the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources' response to this LI that civil society had raised concerns about. Daryl Bosu is Deputy National Director of Arocha Ghana. He's going to be joining me in a bit. But he also, the Samuel Abojinapo, talked about this report of the attempted mining in the Kakum National Forest, the park, beg your pardon, a couple of days ago, which the Minerals Commission issued a statement on. Take a look.
Is what does the, hold on, let me answer your question. What does the authorities make of that application? If the authorities consider the application or grant the application, then we can be up in arms, then we can be worried, then we can be scandalized. In this particular case, when this high street company made the application was rejected ab initio at the point of lodging the application at the Minerals Commission. And therefore, the application did not even find its way to my desk, who is the minister who has a final final authority to grant or disallow an application of that nature. And so when the matter broke out, when my attention was drawn to it, I had to contact the CEO of the Minerals Commission.
So, Daryl, it's been on listening to the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. Daryl, this is his position. That's about the concerns you raised about this LI, not sponsored by this ministry, but then again, it does not open up the forest reserves for mining as you had earlier asserted.
Okay, good evening, Alfred, and good evening to listeners. I think this is a very interesting statement coming from the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. I think there are certain inconsistencies in a lot of the points he's raising. It will be very difficult for anyone in this country to believe that the Minister of Land had no information or did not have privy to an ally that's a ministry that also serves on cabinet with him was going to ensure that it was passed into law. It's very, very unbelievable, and I don't think this is something he can tell to even a child. And so this we should just ignore it because it's not true. It's not possible. That we actually are tending to believe that, and it's even shocking that he has not really come out to make any comments on this LI when it was passed. If he really thinks that the LI has in its intent and purpose is not going to contribute to sustainable forest management, he should have commented on it. But as you know, because he knows about it, and it's actually a nuance to what they have been pushing for a long time to have access to our forest reserves for mining, it's been very convenient for him to keep quiet. And then he made certain statements that the Forestry Commission has been very strict when it comes to granting permits for mining and forest reserves. That is false, completely false information. If you recall, Professor Frimpong Boateng alerted all of us to the fact that from 2018 to somewhere 2019, they granted entry permit to certain entry permit for 34 forest reserves to be given out for prospecting, and they themselves
in fact about 47 actually.
In somewhere. Yes, exactly, 47, but 34 was what was eventually went ahead. And they themselves confirmed this in a press conference that they made. So where really was the strictness with which the Forestry Commission did this? And we have also seen the Forestry Commission CEO actually publish a document or a letter indicating that they have no objection to mining in forest reserves. Okay. So there is really no intention. It's not true that for what the ministers to say that the Forestry Commission has been very, very strict. Now, let's look at this new LI as he spoke about. If you look at the LI, and if you look at the permitting regime within this LI, you realize that the last person who gets to grant a permit is the Forestry Commission. Because once the Minister for Lands grants a mineral right, who are you as a CEO of Forestry Commission to say, I'm not going to allow you? Besides, we all know that the Forestry Commission is under the Ministry of Lands.
Indeed. So and we're also just receiving some information.
Things with this passing of the LI.
Right, about what is happening in the Tiwa Forest as well. So this is a conversation that we're going to put together, because this we will put out on Ghana Tonight tomorrow. And because I know you are an interested stakeholder in the happenings in the Tiwa Forest, you are going to be part of this conversation as well, and marrying that with what the minister said today. But Daryl Bosu is Deputy National Director of ARUCHA Ghana. Daryl, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. On behalf of the rest of the team, we want to say thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. I am Alfred Okanse. Have a good night.